Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning. How is everyone doing today? Let's see. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Wavy. Wavy, you stole my thunder. Let's start with the short-term bounce and see if it turns into anything more. Completely agree. Don't know if this is just a very short-term bounce play. All the targets were essentially hit on the doubles already. We're against the 4-hour rotation zone, but we will get to that shortly. It seems like we should be looking for calls during the short-term rally. Can't wait to buy more puts. Longer term, yeah, I will have. I'm expecting another major down leg. I don't know how long this one will even last. We don't have cycles fully at the bottom yet. I think that looks like good. Goom Gorning. Goom Gorning to you, two options 22. I know you meant good morning. Good morning, Eric. Again, welcome to everybody. We already had the NFIB optimism numbers out pretty much in line with last time. There'll be the economic outlook optimism really coming out at 9 Central, so in 55 minutes. That's not going to be big market moving. We got Fed speaking, but overall it's a quiet day today. Not much to talk about. And before we start talking about stuff, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Longer term viewers, keep leaving some comments and liking the videos. All right. All right. There we go. So, earnings this morning, and Peloton dropped like a rock. Ooh, that was ugly. So that's about all I was really looking at to just see what Peloton was doing. Good morning. Good morning in Tesla. Good morning. We can look at Tesla. Market's up. Remember, against the daily rotation zone. We'll take a look at the shorter term stuff. Even a rally back to this 41.30 to 41.50 area is just into the rotation zone and the prior major support. That was broken. What am I watching before that today? We're into that 4-hour rotation zone. We're closing in on that 50% level, which is a target I'm going to be watching for the open. That's 40.57, and then the 62.5 right at the top of the 4-hour rotation zone, roughly 40.81, 40.81.50. You get a close above this, at least on a 1-hour basis. I'll start really watching for a continued push higher, but anywhere in here we can roll over. That's why I'm hesitant still. We got the cycles rotating up on the 4-hour, not yet overbought, and not yet tipping over, but I will watch to see how the day unfolds. Cycles aren't yet at a bottom on the daily, and the weekly are trying to bottom, but we could have another potential retest rollover. That's why I don't know if this is the short-term bottom yet. We really have to see how it trades today. In the European session, we got this really nice double that you see first target, stop reduction, second target, the pause there, and then now just through that third target. So that is off the table. The high probability bottoming is off the table. If you want to watch something going at the open also, if we do pull back, you're going to have to update this because this is just the short-term things. Let me change the color in that. If we do push higher, those are going to change a bit. But here's what I'm going to be watching if we do roll over into the open. Right here, that 50%. So if this raises or lowers, if it raises a bit, you're going to have to bump the levels up. But it's roughly about 4,006. And then I will start getting a retest of the lows if we start getting a close below 39.95 roughly. 39.94.75. But as long as this area holds, then the longer it holds, the more likely we have put in a bottom. That's what I'm watching for the upside and the downside going in today. So today remains tactical trading mode. Once we have higher probabilities that we have put in a longer term bottom, then I will be focusing on some short term, very short term bullish plays. Because why would they be short term? Again, we broke major support, now becoming major resistance and against the rotation zone. So this has a lot of heavy lifting to do to really get longer term bullish move back on. So short term, we'll see if this is a bottom. Once we get that close above that 40, 80, 150 area, we could be putting in that short-term bottom, and then we will reassess. NASDAQ also, here you go on the NASDAQ with that double pattern off of Europe, and then coming back, hitting all the targets and moving higher. Pretty much the same thing we have from this last little sell-off. We're against a 4-hour rotation zone, so I'm watching about 12,607, 12,600, and then we get through there, 12,646, 1250, and then major resistance is coming in somewhere between about 12,721 to 12,788, and that doesn't even take us back to that 50% level. What would it need to get even stronger? Short-term bullish at close above 13,010 roughly. Because anywhere in here still, even on your daily, you see here, here's that 50%, here's that 62.5, and here's the daily rotation zone, and here's your prior support returning resistance. So even on a pop back up here, could just be another short-term rollover play. That's why you have to be really nimble from my perspective. From my perspective, have to be nimble. If we do break down going into the open, pretty much the same thing. Going to be watching these harmonics. The key area as it stands right now with this brief little pause would be about 12,253.75. A close back below there would then shift me back into short-term bearish mode, watching to see how it reacts near the overnight lows. Again, with all this price action, even these rallies have to get through major resistance at this point. So it's really iffy for a longer term rally. The Dow, first, second target not hit, third target not hitting yet. So 32,575. Again, it's repetitive, but this is exactly how I do things to maintain the probabilities. About 32,191 would be key area what I'm watching now. And again, 4-hour rotation zone coming in at 32,638. And we're actually against this pretty key resistance coming. So there's a fair amount of key resistance. If it does get through there, this is not really a great clear path. And then I'd be targeting about 32,744. I'll get to I see the stuff. Hope we close the day faceless. Good morning, George. Hey everyone, hey Anna. Yeah, we'll get to your Qs, options 22. Can you refresh us on how to use fib levels to manage a gap up in pre-market? Again, they're not fib levels, they're harmonics. Yep, I will refresh that. Can we take a peek at utilities holding up the weekly rotation zone, consumer staples and energy? Let's see if I can get to that this morning. Let me get to some of this other stuff. Russell is the last thing I'm looking at, even on bullish bounces. You can see here how far down we are and how far away from the rotation zone. So major resistance coming in at 1815. DAX, nice little outside reversal potential bar right now, but the next level higher would be about 13,800. And again, longer term, we didn't close below the 62.5 yet. Still staving off right now, but I'm going to be watching again for the DAX to have a rollover play after this rally peters out. Crude, we finished off the double top pattern, making this potential double bottom pattern, but rolling back over. The only way thing to get me short-term bullish on crude again is above 104.16, 106.02. Major cluster area 106.94. That's really the major target, then 107.88. I'll get through these quickly. Gold looks like it's still trying to get in a bottom here. Still have this potential double. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on, 1760 to trigger it. Silver, trying to put in this bottoming pattern also. There we go. This is getting sloppier. I'm still going to be watching these with trigger above 22, 23, 22, 44, and 22, 56. Notes, we did have a potential double. This is what I was watching earlier. It was probably looking like it's off the table now, so not paying any attention to here. Remember, notes, I'm watching for that longer term bottom. Today, I'm really interested if we do rally, if we close above 119.11. It's still against the rotation zone, but a close above there would then be a continued rally up until 120.05 to about 120.18, and that would look like we've put in some bottoming pattern there. Dollar index, I'm watching for the longer term topping pattern to come in, especially in a break below 102.36. This doesn't have to happen today, but I am watching for that longer term topping pattern to come in. VIX, I pointed this out yesterday. We still have, it looks like this is going to trigger with the VIX coming down with this little double top, 32.35, 31.90, 31.38, and then you have all the way back down to about 30.22 with the gap fill. We start breaking really down the VIX, then we can get some legs to possibly sustain the short-term rally. Tesla, getting that gap up. So you asked about, again, how we do it. So from yesterday's close, let me pull this off real quick. From yesterday's close, which was here, we're going to go, we don't know exactly where it's going to open. I'm just going off the pre-market. Let's just say it opens at, where are we, 814 area. Let's just call it here. So then the only way I'm targeting the gap fills if you do get a close back below 797.33. That's going to have to be adjusted. Until that, I will watch for support plays coming in, especially. So I'm not going to target the gap fill until you get that close, at least on a 5-minute bar below 62.50. But anywhere in here, I can watch for rotations back up. Remember, Tesla trying to put in a short-term bottom with the NASDAQ. But again, still on any rally, major overhead resistance 860 to about 874. Even above that, it's got this prior major support becoming resistance and the rolling over rotation zone. So any plays are just very, very short term. And even before then, on a rally, you still have this gap left behind, but I'd be watching first off the top of the 1 hour rotation zone. And then you get above there, I'd be watching this other gap fill that's still left behind. For this other gap fill, when would I start targeting that? On a close, and this would be on a, not on a 5-minute, but at least on a 1 hour above 835 roughly. Then I'd start targeting the other gap fill left behind. Let's jump over to the Qs. Qs levels, again, this is going to be pre-market. I'd be watching for this gap fill up here with some longer term price action. So starting to get, let's map that out. So right now that's right about 304.28. And right now we're going to gap above there. So that does statistically favor the gap fill. The targets I'd be using would be, minor would be about 306. Then 307.69, then the full gap fill to 309.49. You're going to have to do, I can't do them yet, but where would I, again, tip to not bullish? You're going to roughly have to do 304.50. I'll estimate it for you. Somewhere in here, the key thing that would tip it back to bearish would be back below 299.10, roughly. Roughly, you're going to have to update those on your own. And again, on the Qs, just like everything, this was a short-term bounce until it can at least prove itself. You have major overhead resistance at 312.80 to 313 with the daily rotation zone. So let's see here. You want to take a peek at utilities. Let's see, holding up with the weekly rotations. Let me do it this way. Holding up at the weekly rotation zone. Yep. Utilities still, again, you get to start getting the breakout play above about 72.36. That gets interesting short term. You see that's this major area. To really get a move on, it's got to get back above 73. So right now it's really the breakout or breakdown play. Breakdown play above 71. Below 71.08 would be a breakdown play for a further pullback. The breakout play, I'd go a little conservative, about 72.50. And then really gets interesting above 73. It is holding that weekly rotation zone. As we run over in sector analysis, it's still in bullish mode, but could pull back further. So if you get that breakdown, watch for that continued pullback, but it would still be in longer term bullish mode. Let's see. Consumer staples. Again, we have it's holding here. Roughly, nothing's really changed since here. If we do rally up, I start getting more aggressively bullish on that close above 78.23 on the shorter term basis. The only thing that would tip me watching for a bigger pullback is a break below about 75.80. 75.80. Then I'd start watching for the bigger pullback in that. And energy, please. Big reversal in energy, but it's still, your key support is still coming in at about 71.20 to about 71.93. It's interesting now, this could be a double topping pattern. Then we'd start getting the bigger pullback, but this would be something I would not be aggressively selling energy at this point. Again, especially with crude coming in with, it's still in consolidation congestion. This was also just a sell-off with the horrible market conditions yesterday. Pretty much everything got sold. So, and a Tesla gap up and down, which one to play? As long as the NASDAQ doesn't really roll over, I'd be more focused on it going up for the short term after a slight potential pullback. Again, I'm not focused on the gap down getting filled until it's roughly below the 62.5. Other than that, because if the NASDAQ remains strong, I'm watching for the upside price action. Does that mean it's going to fill this gap to the upside today? No. That does not mean that today. Again, we're in tactical trading mode. I'm talking slightly longer term, and even with this potential gap fill, you are just targeting into the weekly rotation zone. So right now, off the open, it's just going to be really, does this NASDAQ hold up or roll over going into the open? Remember, we are against this weekly this 4-hour rotation zone, so we still could get the rollover play. That's why I'm not sure if this bottoms in yet. We need the unfolding price action. Just as Wavy said, let's start with short-term bounce and see if it turns into anything more. It's got to prove itself. This is a bounce after 3 days of massive selling. Is it turning into a longer-term pattern? Not yet. We don't have the probabilities shifting. So we have a short-term bounce play. We don't have long-term shift in the probabilities just yet. That's why you can't just, everybody, is this a dead cat bounce? Don't know yet. Could be. Is this, just could it roll over again today? Yeah, I hate to not have it, but we don't have the probabilities in our favor yet. So I got to go with the continued potential little strength into the open, watching for that rollover. That's why I gave you the key areas I'll be watching, then to get, again, short-term bearish and see if we can put in a longer-term bottom. You're welcome. Thinking stronger sectors might be nice and rally if ES can hold some of those key levels today. And I'd watch for those stronger sectors for just very short-term plays. Fake pop, it may very well be. Again, longer-term perspective, we're trying to get some bottoming price action here, but that can on the weekly and on the daily. But could we see another rollover dip to put in a better longer-term bottom? Completely. So don't get blinders on with this. This has to be it. It could easily fake people out and roll over again. Kramer is bullish. Well, there's no more bottom. Start selling on the open. Kramer's bullish. And this is what I'm talking. I think there's a lot of people starting to get a little aggressive on the bottom. Not saying longer term. We will be putting in some kind of longer term bottom, I think, shortly within the next week or so. I just don't think this is necessarily it yet. Yeah, contrarian indicator. Kramer's bullish. We're done. Sell the open. With that, I got 5 minutes to the open. Thank you for joining me. I mean, if we had a great, like the only other thing, this is why I know I can't give great news, like, is this high probability bottom? We had a high probability short-term bottom, which you saw trigger, and then it hit all the targets. That was the only great probability bottom at this point. That's why we really got to see a selling going into the open. It's got to hold those key levels. UEC. Uranium, again, this was just, I'm still very, very bullish on here, closing right at the 62.5. We're getting a commodity bounce. I'm being patient on uranium right now. I am being patient, but on any pop, this is a buy level. Then a pop unwind would be 386. Is there a strong bottoming pattern? No, there is not yet. I don't have a strong bottoming pattern. I'm late here. Kramer bullish, yes, sell everything. Kramer bullish, sell your house, buy VIX calls. Well, even Kramer could be right occasionally, like for an hour. So keep that in mind. All right. May see a chop day before CPI. I have no buyer here. We'll wait for rejection to reload shorts. And remember, we have a light news day. So I got to still go off the longer term patterns. And we just aren't there yet with the probabilities. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. We will be back again this afternoon to map out new strategies, and hopefully we'll get some more clarity whether we've put in that short-term bottom or not. Talk to everyone.